The wiper transmissions in our universal kit have a threaded output housing with a 3/8 inch outside diameter. Many cowl holes or holes overhead are larger than this. To downsize the holes to the size of our unit, these steel sleeves are provided with your kit. Also, due to factory bezels, the holes may not be at 90-degree angle to the glass, which is required for proper wiper arm function. In this installation, we have enlarged and elongated the hole so that there will be enough room under the cowl for the unit when it is installed at 90 degrees and square to the glass. Your hole may also be too close to the windshield for our transmission housing to fit beneath the cowl. To make sure that the sleeve is 90 degrees and square to the glass, we are going to use a common carpenter's square and a 3/8 inch wooden dowel. We will place the window dowel in the sleeve and place our square on the glass. We will use the dowel to tilt the sleeve until it is parallel to the square. We will also use the square to make sure that the sleeve is square to the glass in both directions. Once both of these angles are set, you can tack weld the sleeve in. Make sure that your transmission will fit and form to the underside before completely welding the sleeve in. Once it is tacked into place, you will want to double check it in all directions. Once your cowl is dressed up, you'll have a nice finished look. In some cases, you will not have to use the weld-in sleeves. You may use our universal bezels to obtain the proper angles. They are pre-cut at 45 degrees, but the angle can be changed by sanding or filing. We also have a 15-degree angled bezel that works great overhead, especially on the late Fords. We also have some custom bezels for the 37 through 40 and 46 through 48 Chevrolets that will cover the cowl holes and allow installation of our unit without the use of sleeves. Install the transmission into the car. Position the transmission where you want it, then install the washers and nuts on the outside. Mark the threaded housing at the top of the jam nut. The larger jam nut is used on the underside. Remove the transmission, cut off the threaded housing at the mark. Make sure that the large jam nut is below the mark before cutting the post off. Once you have cut the post off, you will remove and reinstall the large jam nut. This will correct the threads on the end of the post. Once you have cut the post off, install the gear and shaft into the housing. Place your spline knurl onto the shaft. Leave a slight air gap beneath it and snug the set screw. Make a mark on the shaft at the top of the spline knurl. This is where the shaft will be cut off. Also note at this time that the number on the end of the spline knurl will be on the bottom side of the knurl. This is important when you install your arms. Grease the housing and the gear prior to reinstalling the unit. Use a multi-purpose or wheel-bearing grease. Do not tighten the housing nut at this time. Make sure your backing jam nut is on the threaded post. In this installation, we had to notch the dash reinforcement. Place the rubber washer, stainless steel washer, and mini jam nut onto the post. Run the nut on until 1 or 2 threads are exposed. Secure the unit by tightening the nut on the underside of the dash. First, install the motor onto the motor bracket. Place the nylon spacer onto the motor and place the motor bracket on top of the spacer. It is important that the spacer is on the proper side of the motor bracket. If it is not in the proper place, nothing will align properly later. The kit is supplied with a universal mounting bracket. It can be bolted to either side of the motor bracket. It may also be bolted to the ends. In this installation, we have broke the bracket in half and use 1/2 on top and 1/2 on the bottom. This bracket may be bent, welded, or drilled into. In this demonstration, we are mounting the motor unit in the right kick panel area. You may mount the motor so that it will connect to either the right or the left transmission. In some cars, you may mount the motor behind the dash. Your location is only limited by the 3-foot aluminum tubing that connects the motor to the transmission and by the bending of the tube. The kick panel location works well on cars with overhead wipers so that the tubing may be run up through the windshield pillar. Always mount the unit so that you can remove the cover for servicing and for setting up your sweep angle and park position. Make sure that you do not bend or bow the motor bracket during the mounting process. Again, notice how we have cut the universal bracket into 2 pieces for the mounting. Make sure that the white nylon block is aligned with your tubing routing. The tubing must be flared at each end. We do this with a standard flaring tool. Do not double flare. Space the tubing approximately the thickness of a nickel above the flaring tool. This will provide you with a nice, smooth, oversized flare that will not pull out. We are bending the tubing with a tubing bender. However, the tubing bender has a bending radius which is too small and will kink the tubing. You will need to slowly move the tubing through the bender and bend the tubing at small increments in order to obtain a more gradual bend. The bend should have a maximum radius of 3 inches. You can also bend the tubing around a hard, round object that is at least 6 inches in diameter, such as a grinder or welding tank. You will need to determine where you want your first bend to be and mark the tubing before starting your bending. Your first bend should be at least 4 inches from the motor housing. Once you have run the tubing from your motor housing to the transmission of your choice and you have connected the transmission per the written instructions, you are ready to install the drive cable. Once the cable reaches the transmission, it may become snug. You may need to have someone turn the outside shaft to assist in pulling the cable through. Once the cable is completely inserted, you should be able to move it back and forth. It may be stiff, but if you can move it with your hands, it is okay. Push the cable all the way in until it bottoms out in the motor housing. Once it is pushed all the way through, you will mark the cable at the end of the 4-inch piece of tubing, which allows for the travel of the cable. Remove the cable and cut it off at this mark. Grease the cable completely before reinstalling it. You may use a multipurpose grease or a lighter lithium grease. You are now ready to connect your cable to the drive wheel. The multiple holes in the wheel are for the different degrees of sweep angle. There are 8 holes. Each hole represents about 10 degrees. The hole closest to the center is 90 degrees, and the hole further from the center is 160 degrees. In this case, we have selected 100 degrees, which is the second hole from the center. The hole that you select should be in a direct line with the cable. This should be done with the motor in the parked position. Using the wiring diagram provided, connect your motor and run it, then turn it off so that it will return the park position. Never use a battery charger for this. Damage to the motor and switch will result. You may have to put slight pressure on the motor shaft for it to stop in the park position when the unit is turned off. If you select a different amount of sweep, then the hole that you select should be aligned with the cable. The placement of the drive wheel also determines the parking position. If you connect your unit, as we did, then your arms would park in one direction. If you want to change your park position, this is where you would rotate your drive wheel 1/2 turn. Again, depending on which direction you are parking your arms, the hole that you have selected should be in direct alignment with the cable. Prior to running the unit, the drive wheel and its holes, the link, and the cable stiffener should be greased with a wheel bearing or multi-purpose grease. The link should be greased on both sides, and the complete nylon guide should be greased. This should be done before any test running. To determine the amount of sweep angle needed, mark the furthest point of arm travel on your glass. Draw a line from these points to your pivot point. This will be your sweep angle. You can determine this angle by using either a square or a protractor. In this case, it is approximately 90 degrees. In some cases, you may want to deduct 10 degrees in order to reduce any chance of the blade going too far and damaging your moldings or paint. Always run your wipers the first time using wire ties as fake arms to make sure everything is properly set. We hope this video will help you in your installation process. Please read your written instructions carefully and thoroughly. Everyone at Specialty Power Windows would like to thank you for your confidence in our products and for your purchase.